Hey guys, tonight we're going to live a day with someone who helped build something that would stand for over 700 years until fire nearly claimed it in 2019. You're going to experience a day, a single ordinary day in the life of a master stonemason working on Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, 1263. My name is Guillaume. I'm 42 years old and I've been cutting stone since I was 12. This particular day matters because it's Tuesday delivery day, when the barges arrive with fresh limestone from the quarries upriver and when I'll need to inspect every block before my apprentices touch them. So, before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of immersive history. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is, and especially if you've got connections to construction work, masonry, or cathedral building. Those of you who worked in the building trades or remember when craftsmanship meant something, I'd love to hear how this compares to your experience. Now settle in, get comfortable, and let's step back in time together. Close your eyes if you want. You're about to live a day that someone actually lived 762 years ago. I wake before the bells. That's habit. 30 years of rising in darkness will do that to you. Your body learns when dawn is coming even before the roosters know it. My hands find the leather wrappings first, the ones I bind around my wrists every morning before I pick up a chisel. I'm unwrapping them from yesterday because I fell asleep too tired to bother. The leather is stiff with old sweat and stone dust. Everything I own is stiff with stone dust. The workshop is cold. It's always cold until July, and even then it's cold until noon. I'm in a small room off the main lodge where the master masons sleep. Barely enough space for a pallet, a bench, and my tools. Those who think medieval craftsmen lived in squalor haven't considered that a man who can cut limestone to tolerances of a quarter inch doesn't store his chisels in a hovel. My workshop is small, yes, and simple, but it's clean. The tools are organized. The bench is level. This matters. I sit up, and my back reminds me I'm 42, not 22. There's a specific spot, right where my spine meets my hips, that hasn't forgiven me for yesterday's work, setting a cornerstone that weighed more than 3 grown men. We lowered it into place using a wooden crane and a lot of prayer, and I spent 6 hours afterward making microscopic adjustments with an iron lever while checking the level every few minutes. My back was not consulted about this decision. I stand carefully and move to the basin. The water is from yesterday and has a thin skin of dust on top. I break it with my hand and splash my face. Cold, bracing, effective. My face is like my hands. There's stone dust in every crease, every wrinkle, embedded so deep that no amount of washing removes it entirely. After 3 decades of this work, you become part limestone yourself. I dry my face and hands on a piece of linen that was white when I acquired it 5 years ago and is now permanently gray. Gray is the color of my profession. Gray stone, gray dust, gray dawn light filtering through the small window. Even my tunics turn gray eventually, no matter what color they start. Dressing is a process. First the undershirt linen, yellowish from age, and washing in river water that's probably cleaner than I want to think about. Then the tunic, wool, patched at both elbows and recently re-sewn at the right shoulder where I tore it, lifting a dressed stone. Then the hose, what you'd call leggings, I suppose, tied at the waist with a cord. Then the boots, leather, knee-high, resoled twice, and still my most expensive possession after my tools. A stonemason without good boots is a stonemason who won't be walking by 50. I wrap the leather strips around my wrists again, overlapping them just so, tying them off with a knot I can manage with my teeth if needed. This isn't decoration. When you're hammering a chisel for 12 hours, your wrists take a beating. The leather helps. Not much, but enough. Outside, Paris is still mostly asleep. The street is empty except for a cat that looks at me with complete indifference before continuing its own business. The air smells like wood smoke, horse manure, the Seine River 2 streets over, and something baking bread, probably, from the baker who starts before God himself is awake. I can see my breath. It's April, 1263, and April in Paris means you're either too hot or too cold. Never comfortable. Right now, I'm too cold. The walk to the cathedral construction site takes me through streets I could navigate, blind. Past the cooper's shop, still dark. Past the tavern where I absolutely will not be stopping tonight, because I absolutely don't have the coin to spare, and also, my wife would have opinions. Past the smithy where I'll need to take 2 chisels tomorrow because they're getting dull and my whetstone can only do so much. And then I round the corner, and there it is. Notre Dame. Our Lady. The church that's been under construction for 110 years and still isn't finished. Probably won't be finished in my lifetime. Might not be finished in my grandson's lifetime, if I ever have a grandson. But that's cathedral work. You don't build something like this quickly, you build it right. The western facade rises into the dawn sky like something from a dream, except dreams don't weigh 10,000 tons, and dreams don't require 47 different types of dressed stone cut to specifications so precise that you measure in fractions of inches. The South Tower is complete, finished 3 years ago, thank God and Saint Denis. The North Tower is half height, scaffolding, climbing its flank like wooden ivy. I head to the stone cutting yard, which is really just an area we've cleared and covered with wooden planks so the dressed stones don't sit directly on mud. My tools are where I left them last night in the locked chest that has my name burned into the lid. Guillaume, in letters my daughter carved when she was learning to read. She's 14 now and reads better than I do, which makes me proud and slightly concerned about what she's reading. The chest contains my life's work, measured in iron and wood. Chisels in 8 different sizes. 3 mallets. 1 heavy oak for rough work. 1 medium ash for detail work. 1 light applewood for final finishing. 2 iron squares. A plumb line. A measuring cord with knots tied at precise intervals. A level that's more accurate than most men's promises. A pair of calipers. These tools cost me more than my house, and I trust them more than most people. I select the tools I'll need for today's work inspection day, means I need the square, the level, and my eyes. The actual cutting can wait until I've seen what the quarry sent us. The cutting yard is starting to wake up. Jean-Baptiste is already here. He's always early because he lives 2 streets away and has 6 children, and I suspect his wife kicks him out at dawn just for peace. He's lighting the brazier that we'll use to keep our hands warm between cuts. You can't carve stone with numb fingers. Guillaume, he says, which is hello in our vocabulary. Jean-Baptiste, I reply, which means the same thing. This is how men who've worked together for 15 years communicate. Efficiently. We save our words for arguing about whether a stone is within tolerance or needs to be recut, which we do with the passion of theologians debating scripture. The first stone I inspect is a column drum, a cylindrical section that will eventually be part of one of the interior pillars holding up the roof. Roof that won't exist for another 20 years, but we're optimistic. The stone came from the quarries at Créteil, about 8 miles southeast of Paris, which means it traveled here by barge, by cart, by the sweat of men who don't get their names carved anywhere. I run my hands over the surface. This is the first test, before measuring tools, before squares and levels. My hands know stone. They've known stone since I was 12 years old, and my father, also Guillaume, also a stonemason, put a chisel in my grip and told me to copy his cuts or go hungry. I got very good at copying cuts. The stone is cool, slightly damp from its journey, and rough-faced from the quarry's initial cutting. That's expected. What I'm feeling for are cracks, fissures, inconsistencies in the grain that would make this stone unsuitable for load-bearing work. A crack you can't see can bring down a column. A column can bring down an arch. An arch can bring down a roof section. A roof section can kill 14 men and set the project back 2 years. We take stone inspections seriously. I pick up my square and press it against the stone's edge. There's a gap. Small, maybe the width of a horsehair, but a gap nonetheless. This block was supposed to be cut square at the quarry. It isn't square. It's close to square, which in stonework means it's wrong. Jean-Baptiste, I call over. This column drum, check the square. He walks over, takes his own square. Because we don't trust each other's tools, we trust the agreement between tools and presses it to the same edge. Squints. Nods. Quarter finger off, he says. Agreed. Recut or reject. I think about this. A quarter finger is roughly a quarter inch, and for a column drum that's going to bear the weight of God and half the roof, that's too much deviation. But limestone is expensive. The quarry master at Créteil will not be pleased if I send back stones for minor issues. The cathedral's master mason, Pierre de Montreuil, who has opinions about everything and the authority to back them up, will be even less pleased if I accept substandard work. Recut, I decide. We can square it ourselves. Mark it for Bernard. Bernard is my best apprentice. 24 years old, strong as an ox, patient as a saint, and capable of maintaining a perfect 90-degree angle for 6 hours straight. He'll recut this block, and it will be perfect, and it will cost us half a day's labor, and this is how cathedral building works. Slow. Precise. Expensive. The sound I've been waiting for reaches us from the river, the horn blast that means the barge has arrived. Tuesday delivery. 20 tons of limestone from Créteil if the quarry master kept his word, which he usually does because Pierre de Montreuil has a memory like St. Peter at the gates and will remember every shorted delivery until Judgment Day. Barge is here, Jean-Baptiste says, which I know because I also have ears. I'll go check the load, I say, which he knows because I always check the load. The walk from the cutting yard to the Seine takes me past the actual cathedral construction. Even this early, work has started. I can hear hammers on chisels, the rhythmic clang that becomes the soundtrack of your life when you work on a cathedral. I can hear voices, masters shouting corrections, apprentices asking questions, laborers cursing in languages. I don't speak but understand perfectly because some words are universal. I pass one of the great wheels, the human-powered cranes we use to lift stones that weigh more than 10 men. 2 laborers are inside the wheel now, walking like souls in purgatory, and a dressed stone rises slowly, inch by inch, toward the 3rd level of scaffolding. The master in charge of this particular lift is Arnaud, who is careful and methodical and has never dropped a stone, which is why he's in charge of lifts, and Pierre de Montreuil trusts him. "Morning, Guillaume," he calls down. "Morning, Arnaud. Don't drop that. Hadn't planned to." This is also how men communicate on construction sites. Direct, efficient, with occasional dark humor about crushing deaths. The barge is being secured when I reach the dock. 3 bargemen rivermen with shoulders like tree trunks and vocabularies that would make a bishop faint are tying off to the posts. The barge sits low in the water, which is promising. Low means heavy. Heavy means they brought the full load. "Guillaume," the lead bargeman shouts. His name is Etienne, and he's been running limestone up from Créteil for 12 years. 20 tons, as promised. "Your quarry master sends his regards and a message." "What message?" he says. "Next time Pierre de Montreuil wants perfect cuts from the quarry, Pierre de Montreuil can come to Créteil and cut them himself." I laugh, because this is the eternal argument. The quarry wants to rough cut and let us do the fine work. Pierre wants them to deliver finished stones so we can just set them. The compromise is what we have now. Mostly rough work from the quarry, fine finishing here. Everyone is slightly dissatisfied, which means it's probably fair. "I'll pass that along," I say. "Show me what you've brought." Etienne pulls back the canvas covering, and I get my first look at this shipment. Limestone blocks, various sizes, stacked with enough care that they haven't shifted during transport and crushed the bargeman, which occasionally happens and is universally considered bad for business. I climb onto the barge carefully because falling into the Seine in April wearing wool is a good way to die of cold before you drown, and begin my inspection. This is detail work. This is why Pierre de Montreuil trusts me to receive shipments. I know what to look for. First, count. Etienne said 20 tons. I need to verify that's what's here. I start counting blocks, estimating weights based on size. This block is roughly 2 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet, approximately 500 pounds. That block is smaller, maybe 300. This one is massive, close to 1,000 pounds. My mental calculation continues. Second, quality. I'm looking at grain structure, checking for obvious cracks, running my hands over surfaces. This isn't the detailed inspection I'll do in the cutting yard, but it's enough to catch major problems now before we unload 20 tons of unusable stone. I mark each block I inspect with a charcoal symbol, a simple cross that means Guillaume has looked at this and it's acceptable pending detailed inspection. The blocks I reject get a different mark, a circle, which means don't even bother unloading this, it's going back to Créteil, and the quarrymaster can explain why he thought this was acceptable work. Out of 20 tons, I find 3 blocks worth rejecting. One has a crack running through the center that I can fit my fingernail into. One has a grain structure so chaotic, it looks like God was drunk when he made this particular section of earth. One is simply miscut. They were supposed to deliver a rectangular foundation block and instead sent us something that's vaguely trapezoidal, which is only useful if we're building a cathedral for people who don't believe in right angles. 3 rejects, I tell Etienne. He grimaces. The quarrymaster won't be pleased. The quarrymaster can take that up with Pierre de Montreuil. These 3 don't meet specifications. Fair enough. Your unload crew ready? I look back toward the construction site where our laborers are gathering. 20 men, mostly young, mostly strong, mostly hoping to learn a trade that doesn't involve standing in a barge-mounted crane all day, every day. Some of them will become apprentices, most won't. That's how it works. They're ready, I say. The unloading begins. This is dangerous, skilled work that looks like unskilled labor, which is why men die doing it. A 500-pound block sliding down a wooden ramp on rollers, controlled only by rope and human muscle, is not forgiving of mistakes. You slip, you lose your grip, you misjudge the angle. Someone dies. Maybe you. Maybe the man next to you. Maybe both. I watch the first block come down. The crew knows what they're doing. 4 men on ropes, 2 men managing the rollers, 2 men ready to grab the block once it's on the dock. They move in practiced coordination, calling to each other in short shouts. Ready. Holding. Ease left. Down. The block settles onto the dock with a heavy thump that I feel through the wooden planks. No one dies. Success. This process will repeat approximately 40 times over the next 3 hours as we unload the barge. I don't need to watch every block. The unload master knows his job, but I watch the first few because it sets the tone. The crew sees me watching. They know I care about both the stone and their safety, and they work carefully. After the 5th block is successfully landed, I head back to the cutting yard. The barge will be fully unloaded by midday, and then the real work begins. Detailed inspection of every block, marking them for specific uses, assigning them to specific masons for cutting and finishing. Back at the cutting yard, Bernard has already started on the column drum I marked earlier. He's set it on the work trestle and is measuring the correction needed. I watch him work for a moment. His movements are economical, precise. He measures twice, marks once, measures again. This is good practice. This is how you become a master. How much do you need to remove? I ask. Quarter finger from this edge, maybe slightly less from the opposite side to maintain the curve, he says, not looking up from his work. He's using calipers to verify the radius. Column drums aren't just square-edged blocks. They need to maintain a precise circular cross-section that will align perfectly with the drums above and below them. Get the radius wrong by a quarter inch and you'll see the error repeated 40 feet up when the column doesn't align properly. Show me your marks, I say. He's marked the cutting lines in charcoal carefully with a straight edge. The lines are perfect. The boy has learned well. Good, I say. Proceed. Check your square every 10 cuts. Yes, Master Guillaume. I don't usually stand on formality. Most of the masons call me by my first name. But Bernard is still in that stage where he needs the structure, needs the clear hierarchy to feel secure in his learning. Give him another year and he'll be comfortable enough to argue with me about technique, which is when I'll know he's really learning. The cutting yard has come fully alive now. 8 masons working, maybe 15 apprentices, plus laborers moving stones and clearing debris. The sound is constant. Chisel on stone, mallet on chisel, the scrape of blocks being moved, the sweep of brooms on stone chips, voices calling measurements and corrections. This is the sound of a cathedral being built. It's been going on for 110 years. It will continue for decades more. Long after I'm dead, men will stand in this yard, or one like it, cutting stone, checking squares, arguing about tolerances. The work continues. I move to my own workstation where I've got a decorative capital waiting, the top piece of a column where it meets an arch. This isn't load-bearing work in the same way as the column drums, but it's arguably more important because everyone will see it. A cracked foundation stone 30 feet underground that fails will be a disaster. A poorly carved capital at eye level in the nave will be an embarrassment visible to every bishop, king, and common pilgrim who enters for the next 1,000 years. No pressure. The capital I'm working on features acanthus leaves, a classical motif that's been popular since the Romans and shows no signs of going out of style. Each leaf needs to look natural, which is ironic because I'm carving them in stone, which is the opposite of natural for plants. But the eye knows what looks right, and what looks right is leaves that appear to be growing, curving, overlapping, catching light and shadow in ways that suggest actual vegetation. I've carved approximately 3,000 acanthus leaves in my career. You'd think I'd be bored. I'm not. Each one is different. Each one teaches me something about the stone, about the chisel, about the relationship between pressure and precision. I select my detailed chisel, a narrow blade, well-maintained, sharp enough to shave with if I were foolish enough to try. Position it at the leaf's edge where it curls under itself. Tap gently with the applewood mallet. Too hard and I'll chip more than I want. Too soft and nothing happens. The right pressure comes from 30 years of practice and can't be taught, only learned. The chisel bites. Stone chips away. The leaf reveals itself, millimeter by millimeter, like something that was always there waiting to be discovered. Those of you who worked with your hands, whether in a workshop, on a construction site, or in a trade that required precision, you know this feeling. The feeling when the material does exactly what you intended, when the tool becomes an extension of your thought, when skill and patience produce something that didn't exist before. If you've experienced that satisfaction, drop a comment. I'd genuinely like to hear about it. I work in silence, which is common. Some masons talk while they work. I don't. I think. I think about the curve of this leaf and how it will relate to the leaf next to it. I think about shadow depth and how the light from the nave's windows will catch these details from 30 feet below. I think about whether I'm maintaining consistent depth across all the leaves or if this one is slightly shallower than the others. I think about lunch, which is still 2 hours away. I think about my daughter who asked last night if she could learn to read Latin because French wasn't challenging enough. I'm proud and terrified in equal measure. A girl who reads Latin is a girl with ideas, and ideas are dangerous, especially for women in 1263. But I told her yes, because knowledge is the one thing that can't be taken from you, not by thieves, not by war, not by poverty. I think about my father, who taught me this trade and died 15 years ago with a chisel in his hand, which is probably how I'll go too. There are worse ways to die. Most of them involve not doing work you love. The leaf takes shape, curves emerge. I create a vein line down the center, delicate, precise, requiring the lightest touch because one wrong tap will split the leaf in half and I'll have to chisel down the entire capital and start over. The vein line works. I exhale, move to the next leaf. The sun is higher now, which means it's approaching the 6th hour, what you'd call noon. My stomach knows this before the church bells announce it. 30 years of eating at the same time every day will train your body better than any clock. I step back from the capital and examine my morning's work. 4 leaves completed out of 16 total. At this rate, I'll finish the capital in 4 days, which is exactly the schedule Pierre de Montreuil gave me, which means I'm neither ahead nor behind, which is the ideal state of existence for a craftsman. Ahead means you rushed. Behind means you're failing. On schedule means you know your trade. My back has that familiar ache. My right shoulder, the one that swings the mallet, is tight. My knees, which have spent the morning locked in a half-crouch over the workbench, are informing me that I'm not 20 anymore, and they'd appreciate some consideration. I ignore them. They'll get consideration when I'm dead. Bells soon, Jean-Baptiste says, appearing at my elbow. He has an uncanny ability to know when I'm about to take a break, probably because he's also about to take a break, probably because we've worked together so long we're synchronized, like a very slow, very precise dance. Agreed, I say, setting down my chisel with the care you'd use for a newborn child. These tools are worth more than I am. I wrap my chisels in oiled cloth, each one individually, because letting them touch each other can damage the edges, and a damaged edge means hours of resharpening, or worse, a trip to the smith for repair. The cloth is treated with rendered fat that keeps moisture away from the iron. It smells faintly rancid, which is unpleasant, but rust smells like failure, which is worse. The bells ring. Notre Dame's own bells, the ones that are already installed in the South Tower, calling the faithful to prayer and the workers to lunch. The sound is massive, physical, something you feel in your chest as much as hear with your ears. When all the bells are finally installed and ringing together, they say the sound will carry for miles. I believe it. These 3 bells alone can wake the dead. Work stops. Not immediately. You don't just drop tools in the middle of a cut, but within a few minutes, the yard quiets. Chisels are set aside. Mallets are laid down. Apprentices sweep up the morning's stone chips because leaving them scattered is how you turn an ankle. And an injured apprentice is an apprentice who can't work, and an apprentice who can't work might as well not exist. The midday meal happens wherever you can find space to sit. Some men head to the tavern. The one I'm definitely not going to because I definitely don't have the coin, and also because 1 drink becomes 3 and 3 becomes sleeping through the afternoon shift. Most of us eat here at the site. We've got bread, cheese, maybe some dried fish if you're prosperous or willing to smell like fish all afternoon. I find my usual spot, a limestone block that was rejected last month for having an iron inclusion and now serves as very expensive seating. Jean-Baptiste joins me, as does Arnaud from the crane crew, and Robert, another master mason who specializes in vault stones. This is our informal dining arrangement, established through years of habit and mutual tolerance. I unwrap my lunch, which my wife packed this morning while I was still mostly asleep. Bread dark rye yesterday's, hard enough to use as a weapon if needed. cheese. The cheap kind that tastes like salted chalk but keeps you alive. An apple, which is a luxury and means my wife either loves me or felt guilty about something. I'll figure out which later. How's the capital coming? Robert asks around a mouthful of bread. 4 leaves done, 12 to go, 4 days then, if the stone cooperates. The stone always cooperates for you, Guillaume. You could make limestone sing if you wanted. This is generous and untrue, but I appreciate the sentiment. I bite into the bread, which requires actual effort. My teeth are mostly intact at 42, which makes me fortunate compared to most men my age, but this bread is testing their commitment. The cheese is exactly as terrible as expected. The apple is crisp and sweet, and possibly the best thing I've tasted all week, which says something about either the apple or my life. Barge came in clean this morning? Arnaud asks. 3 rejects out of 20 tons. Not bad. Créteil is improving. Or we're getting less picky. You? Less picky? Robert laughs. You once rejected a stone because it was cut on a Tuesday during Lent. It had a crack, I say, defensive. It had a crack you needed magnification to see. A crack is a crack. This is an old argument, comfortable as worn boots. Robert thinks I'm too exacting. I think he's too forgiving. We're both probably right. The truth, as usual, sits somewhere between our positions, carefully measured and precisely cut. The conversation drifts, as it always does during meals. Arnaud complains about his eldest son, who wants to be a musician instead of learning a useful trade. Robert mentions that his wife is pregnant again, their 7th child, and he's resigned to poverty forever. Jean-Baptiste doesn't say much because he's eating enough for 2 men, which is his usual approach to meals. I finish the apple slowly, because it might be the last one I see until next week, and also because lunch is the only time all day I get to sit without something requiring my immediate attention. The work will still be there in half an hour. The cathedral isn't going anywhere. It's been under construction for a century. It can wait through my lunch. Around us, the site is quiet, but not silent. You can hear Paris beyond the construction zone, vendors calling, horses on cobblestones, the river moving past, life continuing in all its messy complexity. The cathedral exists in the middle of this living city, rising stone by stone while people go about their business mostly ignoring us. In 100 years, they'll come from all over Christendom to see what we're building. Right now, we're just the construction site that makes their street muddy. Pierre was asking about the rose window stones yesterday, Arnaud mentions, carefully casual. I groan. The rose window is a project I've been avoiding thinking about. It's not that I can't do the work, I can. But it's delicate, complex, requires absolute precision, and will take me the better part of a year. Also, if I make a mistake, it'll be visible from half of Paris. What did you tell him? That you'd have an answer by end of week. Arnaud, you're a coward. Yes, but I'm a coward who doesn't have to cut rose window tracery. He has a point. The bells ring again, the signal that lunch is over, that work resumes, that we return to the business of building something that will outlast us all by centuries. I stand, brush stone dust from my tunic, which is futile because I'll be covered in stone dust again within minutes, but habit is habit. My knees protest. My back protests. I ignore both protests and head back to my bench. The capital waits. 12 leaves remain. The stone doesn't care that I'd rather sit in the shade for another hour. The stone doesn't care about anything. That's what I like about it. I unwrap my tools again, the same ritual in reverse. Select the detail chisel I was using this morning. Check the edge by touch, which tells me more than looking. Still sharp. Good. I position the capital back in the exact spot it occupied before lunch, which matters because the light has shifted and I need to reorient myself to the work. Leaf number 5. I study it before I make the first cut. Each leaf has a personality, a natural position, a way it wants to curl and overlap with its neighbors. You can force stone to do what you want, but the result looks forced. Better to listen to what the stone is telling you. Work with its grain. Let the leaf emerge the way it wants to emerge. I position the chisel. Take a breath. Tap. The afternoon has begun. The afternoon work is different from morning work. In the morning, you're fresh, precise, capable of your best work. By afternoon, you're tired, which means you need to be more careful, which paradoxically means you often do better work because you can't rely on automatic responses. You have to think about every cut. I work slowly. Each leaf takes approximately 45 minutes from first cut to completion. The detail is extreme veins within the leaf, serrated edges, the way the leaf curls under at the tip, the subtle thickness variation that makes it look natural rather than stamped from a template. This is why they pay master masons more than apprentices. An apprentice can cut a straight line. A master can make stone look like it's growing. The yard around me continues its rhythm. Bernard is still working on the column drum, and from the sound of his chisel strikes, he's making good progress. Someone drops something heavy, followed by cursing in at least 2 languages. A master shouts a correction to an apprentice who apparently believes that square is a relative term. The cathedral construction continues behind us. I can hear the crane wheel turning, the rhythmic hammer strikes, the constant background noise of 100 men building something impossible. Leaf 5 is fighting me. There's a hard spot in the stone, probably a small mineral inclusion, right where I need to make a delicate curve. Hit it too hard, and the leaf splits. Hit it too soft, and nothing happens. I work around it, come at the curve from a different angle, coax the stone rather than force it. This is the conversation between mason and material. The stone has properties, hardness variations, grain direction, natural weaknesses. I have tools and knowledge. We negotiate. Usually I win, but not always, and the times I don't win teach me more than the times I do. The hard spot yields. The curve emerges. The leaf takes shape. I'm aware, dimly, that my shoulder is complaining louder now, that my right hand has that specific ache that means I've been gripping the chisel too tight, that I need to drink water, which I haven't done since lunch. These are problems for future Guillaume. Present Guillaume is focused on leaf 5, which is almost perfect, which means another 30 minutes to make it actually perfect. The sun is lower now. The shadows are longer. The quality of light has changed from the harsh brightness of midday to something softer, more golden. This is good light for carving because it emphasizes relief. Shadows pool in the carved depths, making it easier to see if the depth is consistent across the design. I finish leaf 5, step back, study it, compare it to leaves 1 through 4. The depth is consistent. The curves flow naturally. The veining is delicate but visible. It's good work, not perfect. Nothing is perfect but good. Pierre de Montois will not send it back for rework. That's the standard I work to. Pierre de Montois will not send it back. Master Guillaume? A voice behind me. I turn to find Thomas, one of the younger apprentices, maybe 17, still gangly and uncertain, still figuring out if he has the patience for this trade. Thomas. Master Bernard asked me to request your inspection of the column drum. He believes it's ready. This is formal language, for Bernard wants you to check his work before he wastes time on something that's wrong. This is good practice. This is how you learn. Show me, I say. Bernard's workstation is organized like a military camp, every tool in its place, work surface swept clean, the column drum positioned perfectly on the trestle. This boy will make master within 5 years if he doesn't get killed by falling stone first. The drum sits waiting for judgment. Bernard stands beside it, trying to look confident and failing. He's nervous, which is appropriate. I'm about to examine work that took him 6 hours with tools that will reveal errors measured in fractions of inches. I pull out my square, press it against the edge he corrected this morning. No gap. Try the opposite edge. No gap. Check the curve with calipers against the template. Perfect radius. Test the top surface with my level. Dead flat. It's good work, I say. Bernard's relief is visible. His shoulders drop about 2 inches. The correction was within tolerance? The correction was perfect. This drum will mate with the one below it and the one above it without any gap. That's the standard. You met it. Thank you, Master Guillaume. Don't thank me. Thank yourself for taking the time to do it right. A lot of apprentices would have rushed it, figured close enough was good enough. Close enough gets people killed when the column fails under load. You didn't rush. That's why you'll make master. He nods, still too nervous to speak, and I leave him to prepare the drum for transport to the cathedral proper, where it will eventually be lifted into place and become part of something larger than both of us. Those of you who had mentors, teachers, foremen, sergeants who taught you your trade, you know this moment. The moment when someone whose opinion matters tells you that you did it right. If you remember who taught you your craft, leave their name in the comments. They deserve to be remembered. I return to my capital and realize I've been working for 3 hours straight since lunch. My hands inform me of this by cramping slightly when I try to pick up the chisel again. I stop, flex my fingers, stretch my wrists. This is maintenance. A mason's hands are his livelihood, and destroying them through stubbornness is the mark of a fool. I take a drink from the communal water barrel, lukewarm water that tastes like the wooden barrel it's stored in, but wet is wet. Around me, the yard is beginning the slow transition toward evening. The light continues its shift from gold to amber. The air is cooling. Men are starting to think about finishing up tasks, preparing tools for tomorrow, heading home. I have 2 more leaves I want to complete today. That will bring me to 7 out of 16 slightly ahead of schedule, which means tomorrow I can slow down if needed, focus on absolute quality rather than meeting a deadline. This is how you build cathedrals. Slow, careful, with enough margin for error that you never actually make errors. Leaf 6 emerges over the next hour, then leaf 7. I hold the capital up to the late afternoon light, turning it slowly, examining the shadows, checking the depth consistency, looking for any flaw that will become obvious once this piece is installed 30 feet above the nave floor. The work is good. Better than good. It's approaching excellent, which is the best I can say about anything I make. Excellent work gets you more work. Perfect work gets you accused of witchcraft. I stay safely in excellent territory. The bells ring for vespers. The sun is low enough now that it's painting the cathedral's western facade in shades of orange and pink that no stone carver could ever reproduce because they only exist in light, not in substance. The workday is ending. I begin the process of securing my tools for the night, each chisel wrapped individually, mallets set in their designated spots in the chest, square and level positioned carefully so they don't get knocked or dropped. The capital itself gets covered with damp cloth to keep the stone from drying too quickly and cracking. Limestone can be temperamental about moisture content. This ritual takes 15 minutes. I could do it in 5 if I rushed. I don't rush. These tools need to survive until I die or can afford to replace them, whichever comes first. Careful storage is an investment in my future ability to eat. The walk home begins, the way it always does, with my body reminding me of everything I've asked it to do today. Shoulders tight, back stiff, hands aching in that specific way that means tomorrow morning they'll be worse before they get better. Knees protesting each step on the cobblestones. I'm 42 years old, and I feel like 60, which is probably about right for a man who's been cutting stone since childhood. Paris at dusk is a different city than Paris at dawn. The streets are still busy, people heading home from work, vendors making last sales, children being called inside for supper. The air smells different. Too less of the river and stone dust, more of cooking fires and evening meals. Bread baking, something with onions. Fish from the Seine that someone is brave enough or poor enough to eat. I pass the same landmarks in reverse. The smithy, where the forge fire glows orange in the growing darkness. The tavern, where I can hear voices and laughter and know that some of the construction crew stopped there despite having no money, which means tomorrow they'll work with headaches. The cooper's shop, shuttered for the night. My house is small. 2 rooms, timber framed, with a thatched roof that needs replacing, but that's a problem for next year's Guillaume. It sits on a street that's not quite respectable, but not quite slum, which matches my income perfectly. The ground floor is where we live. Cooking area, eating area, sleeping area, all in one room, because separate rooms are for people with more money than sense. The upper floor, barely tall enough to stand in, is where my daughter sleeps and where we store anything we don't want stolen. I can smell supper before I open the door. Pottage vegetable stew that's been simmering all day, probably with a bit of salt pork if we're fortunate. My wife, Marguerite, has been cooking the same pottage for 20 years of marriage and somehow makes it taste slightly different every time, which I suspect is a form of witchcraft, but beneficent witchcraft, so I don't complain. "You're late," she says as I enter. This is her standard greeting. I'm never actually late, but saying I'm late is her way of saying she missed me, which is as close to sentiment as we get after 20 years. The capital required attention, I say, which is my way of saying I missed her too. My daughter, Isabel, is setting the table, which is really just setting out wooden bowls and spoons, but she takes it seriously because she takes everything seriously. She's 14 and already smarter than I'll ever be, which fills me with pride and terror in roughly equal measure. She looks up when I enter and smiles, which is worth every aching muscle in my body. "Papa, did you finish the leaves today?" 7 out of 16. That's good progress. It's acceptable progress. You're too modest. I'm appropriately modest. Pride comes before a falling stone, and falling stones kill people. This is an old conversation between us. She thinks I should take more credit for my work. I think credit is dangerous and unnecessary. We're both probably right. I set my tool chest in its designated corner, the one spot in our small house that's mine, where no one moves anything, where my tools live when they're not working. Marguerite has threatened to move it several times over the years when she needs the space, but she never does. She understands, even if she doesn't say so, that those tools are how we eat. We eat at the table, which is a luxury compared to how some families live. The pottage is hot and contains what it always contains: turnips, onions, cabbage, some kind of grain that makes it thick, and yes, a small piece of salt pork that makes the whole thing taste less like penitential fasting. The bread is the same dark rye I had for lunch, but fresh from today's baking, which makes it marginally easier to eat. "How is the market?" I ask Marguerite, because this is what husbands ask wives, and also because I'm genuinely curious if we can afford meat this week or if the salt pork was an extravagance we'll pay for later. "Expensive," she says, which means the same as yesterday and the day before. Fish prices are up because the Seine is running high and the nets aren't catching well. Bread is reasonable. I got us apples. So the apple at lunch was not a singular event, but part of a larger apple situation. This explains why Marguerite is pleased with herself. She found a good price on apples, which are valuable because they keep, and keeping means we eat through the winter. "The apples are good," I confirm. "I know," she says, with the confidence of a woman who has been managing a household budget for 2 decades and knows precisely what she's doing. Isabel talks about her day, which involved helping her mother with laundry. And if you think stonework is hard, try washing clothes in cold river water for 6 hours and then reading, because she reads whenever she can, whatever she can get her hands on. Currently, she's reading a psalter she borrowed from the priest, who has noticed her intelligence and is either encouraging it or trying to recruit her for the church. I haven't decided which. "The psalm about the builders is interesting," she says. "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." Do you ever reject stones that become important later? Sometimes, I admit. Stone that looks wrong for one purpose might be perfect for another. That's why we keep the rejects for a while before sending them back to the quarry. Someone might find a use. "Like people," she says, which is more philosophical than I'm prepared for after 12 hours of carving leaves. Like people. I agree, because arguing with her is futile, and also she's usually right. We finish eating. Marguerite clears the bowls. I offer to help. She waves me off because she knows I'm exhausted, and also because she has a system and I'll just disrupt it. Isabel banks the fire for the night, adding just enough wood to keep it smoldering so we can restart it easily in the morning. These are the rhythms of domestic life. Small tasks, repeated daily, unremarkable and essential. I wash my hands and face in the basin near the fire. The water turns white with stone dust almost immediately. I scrub, but there's stone dust that won't come out, embedded so deep it's become part of me. My hands will never be truly clean again. This is the mark of my trade. Visible evidence of 30 years carving limestone. My face in the water's reflection, distorted, flickering in the firelight, looks older than I feel. Lines around the eyes from squinting at detail work. Gray in the beard that I swear wasn't there last year. Stone dust in the wrinkles. I'm becoming stone myself, slowly, day by day, chip by chip. "You're thinking too much," Marguerite says, appearing at my shoulder. "I'm thinking the right amount." "You're thinking about getting old. I'm 42. I am old. Your father worked until 67. My father was stubborn. So are you." She's right, of course. I am stubborn. It's a family trait, like the ability to carve acanthus leaves and the tendency to die with a chisel in hand. The sleeping area is just the corner of our room with a wooden platform that keeps us off the cold floor. The mattress is straw restuffed last month when the old straw had broken down into dust, covered with wool blankets that Marguerite wove herself over 2 winters. Not comfortable by any measure, but better than sleeping on bare ground, which I did for the first 15 years of my life before I could afford better. I remove my boots, which is a process because my feet have swollen during the day and the leather doesn't want to let go. Eventually they come off, and my feet thank me by aching even more now that they're free. I flex my toes, which pop in ways they didn't when I was 20. Isabel is already up the ladder to her sleeping space, where I can hear her moving around, probably reading by whatever light makes it through the gaps in the floorboards. I should tell her to sleep. I don't. She'll sleep when she's tired, and forcing her to lie awake in darkness serves no purpose except asserting parental authority, which seems less important than letting her read. I unwrap the leather bindings from my wrists, the last task of every day. The leather has left marks, indentations where it pressed against skin all day. I flex my wrists, which are stiff and sore and will be worse tomorrow morning before they loosen up with work. This is the cycle. Morning stiffness that eases with use. Evening soreness that settles in overnight. Repeat forever, or until something breaks permanently. I lie down on the mattress, which is exactly as uncomfortable as it was yesterday and will be tomorrow. Marguerite settles beside me, and we lie there in the dim firelight, not speaking, because after 20 years of marriage, you don't need to fill every silence with words. "The capital is going well?" she asks eventually. 7 leaves done? It's good work. Pierre will be pleased. Pierre is never pleased. Pierre is sometimes not displeased, which is as close to pleased as Pierre gets. She laughs quietly. She's met Pierre de Montreuil exactly once at a cathedral dedication ceremony and formed an immediate and accurate assessment of his personality. "You'll finish on schedule," she says. This is not a question. This is a statement of fact, based on 20 years of watching me finish every project on schedule, because the alternative is unthinkable. "I'll finish on schedule," I confirm. The fire burns down to coals. The room grows darker. Above us, I can hear Isabelle finally settling down to sleep. Outside, Paris continues its night sounds, dogs barking, someone singing badly in the distance, the bells from Notre Dame marking the hours that divide night from day. I think about tomorrow. The capital waits. 9 more leaves. 2 more days of work, probably 3 to be safe. Then the detail finishing that makes good work into excellent work. Then Pierre's inspection, which I'll pass because I always pass. And then the capital will be installed, lifted into place, set into position where it will support an arch that will support a roof that will shelter the faithful for centuries. My hands built that. My hands and my knowledge and my tools and my stubbornness. I think about the column drum that Bernard corrected today. How he measured 3 times before making the first cut. How he checked the square every 10 cuts like I taught him. How he'll remember this drum 20 years from now when he's a master teaching his own apprentices, and he'll tell them about the importance of precision, and they'll listen or they won't, and the ones who listen will become masters themselves. This is how knowledge passes. Master to apprentice. Generation to generation. My father taught me. I teach Bernard. Bernard will teach someone else. The chain continues, unbroken, for as long as there are stones to cut and cathedrals to build. I think about the cathedral itself. Started in 1163, 100 years ago. I'm 42. I started working on it at 12. 30 years of my life have gone into this building. I'll work on it until I can't work anymore, until my hands give out, until my eyes fail, until my back finally refuses to bend over a workbench. I won't see it finished. That's almost certain. The current estimates say another 50 years, maybe more. I'll be dead. Marguerite will be dead. Isabelle might be old enough to see it if she's lucky, if she lives long enough. But the work I did today? Those 7 leaves carved into that capital, they'll be there long after I'm bones in the ground at Saint-Étienne Cemetery. Long after everyone who knows my name is dead. Those leaves will catch the light filtering through the rose window, will cast their small shadows, will be part of something larger than any one person. This is what we're building, not just a church. A statement that says humans can create something that lasts, that endures, that points upward toward God or heaven or whatever you believe comes after this life. We're building proof that we were here, that we mattered, that we could work together to create something impossible. Outside, the cathedral waits in darkness. The stones I cut today are there. The stones, Bernard corrected, are there. The stones we'll cut tomorrow are waiting to be cut. The work continues. The work will always continue. Long after I'm gone, men will stand in the cutting yard, will select their chisels, will check their squares, will argue about tolerances, will carve leaves and correct column drums and build something that lasts. This gives me comfort, somehow, that the work is bigger than I am. That my small contribution 7 leaves on 1 capital is part of something vast and enduring. That I get to be part of this thing, this impossible thing, this cathedral that reaches toward heaven stone by stone. My hands ache, my back aches, my shoulders, my knees, my wrists, everything aches. Tomorrow I'll wake before the bells, and it will all ache worse before it gets better. And then I'll walk to the cathedral, unlock my tool chest, unwrap my chisels, and carve leaf number 8. Because this is what I do. This is what I am. Guillaume, master stonemason, 42 years old, builder of cathedrals, carver of leaves, teacher of apprentices, husband, father, maker of things that last. If tonight's journey through medieval stonework stirred something in you, whether memories of your own craft, stories your father or grandfather told about building things that mattered, or just appreciation for work done with care and precision, I'd be honored if you shared them in the comments below. Your generation built the modern world with the same patience and precision we used on Notre Dame. That knowledge, that experience, those stories, they deserve to be remembered. My hands rest on the blanket, still, finally still. Tomorrow they'll move again. We'll grip chisels, we'll feel stone, we'll create. But tonight they rest. The fire dies to darkness, and sleep comes, carrying me away from the aches and the stone dust and the worry about tomorrow's work, carrying me into dreams of finished cathedrals and perfect leaves and work done right, done well, done with care. The day ends, but the work never does, and that's exactly as it should be. Now rest well, and I'll see you in the next one.